Nope. Okay, cool. For some reason, my microphone was still off, even though I turned it on. That's stupid. Konbawa. Wait, hang on, let me check something. Bye. I don't know. I know I turned that shit on. But anyways, welcome to the stream here. Today, wait, hang on, let me make sure the music is a little bit lower. Well, actually, no, it's only loud in my ears right now. It's actually pretty freaking low. I think it's like as low as I can probably make it, honestly. But I'm going to try and talk louder now. Because I actually am full of energy today, unlike yesterday. Tuesday was actually not that bad. For once, a Tuesday was actually pretty damn peaceful at work today. So, that's a W. We take those. Let's see about chat. Still need to get like a doc for the YouTube chat, so then I don't have to constantly pop out the YouTube chat from the YouTube stream page and everything. That's one thing. Okay, so just gonna go over how my day was. My day was pretty good. It was pretty chilled. Nothing broke. No major outages in the world of IT, at least in my section. So that's a W. You take those. Pretty simple issues today. Nothing really major to really talk about or anything like majorly annoying. Just classic IT troubleshooting. Took a nap after work. I'm awake now. I feel good. Earlier today there was some downtime, so I was sketching my VTuber model. There are going to be some major changes to how I look now. For the next VTuber model, I'm still going to have overall the same design. It's just going to be a bit more detailed. My plan is to have two different versions of my VTuber model: a Pokemon art style version and a more dynamic anime style version and everything, kind of more classic VTuber-y and everything. And I plan on changing up all the movements, getting the hair physics to be a bit better. So this is probably going to be, the art process is going to be shorter, but the rigging process is going to be a lot longer. And I'll probably do some streams where I'm rigging my next model. Maybe. Actually, no, I don't think I'll do that, because I kind of want to unveil it, do a big unveiling. I kind of like doing things. I like keeping things under wraps for a little bit, like talking about it just a little bit, but actually like showcasing it when it's fully finished. I kind of like doing that. Despite people not liking Elon Musk, there was like a quote that he had said years ago about how like he just does shit and stuff, and then just like when it's done, like actually like he doesn't say anything about it to anyone, just does shit, and then boom, he did it. Like that's when he unveils it and it looks really cool. So I kind of like that. But I also can't keep my mouth shut unless I'm told to. So like I'm not going to fully do that. I'm not going to show, like what I'm going to do is like not show everything. I'm just going to say things. And then most likely most people will forget. And then when I actually show it, they're watching you. Yeah, they certainly are. Yeah, when it's actually finished, that's when I'll actually like show like what I've been working on and stuff. 'Cause like I got a lot of stuff in the works in the background that I'm slowly but surely working on. In terms of like upping the quality of the stream, like in terms of like transitions, the background art, maybe have some things moving in the background instead. It's probably going to look relatively the same. Kind of just modifying what I have currently. Okay, why do I feel like my model's like glitching out so much more when it comes to the mouth movements? It's really weird. It's kind of off-putting for me. I don't know. I probably need to just look closer at the camera. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that's going to be improved in the next version as well, like mouth movements and stuff. I have more facial expressions. Nope. Okay. Yeah, it's being weird. Hang on, let me check something. Yeah, this is really, I don't know, kind of jarring a little bit. Hang on. Modify a setting. At least on my small screen. Yeah. No. Decrease sensitivity. Decrease sensitivity on that one. So can I modify a little bit of my hair physics here? I don't think I can. No, well, not unless I do some major modifications. I don't feel like doing that. Not right now, at least. Yeah, but the plan right now is to stream every day going forward, but there will be a time where like I might take a couple days off of streaming, and that means I'm working on like a bigger project and stuff. That or I'm like dead tired. But I'll usually keep Twitter posted and stuff on if I'm dead tired or if I'm working on a project. I'll usually put it in my schedule ahead of time. Let me put my VTuber model back up after I looked at my settings. So yeah, let me. Actually, I think I should make it a little bit larger. Do I make it larger here? Hang on. Just make it a little bit larger here. Okay. Yeah, for the just chatting portion, at least. Yeah. Okay. Having a 60 FPS camera also kind of makes my model how it is currently be really weird. But I do like how responsive it is, but also like when I look at it, it bothers me because I noticed some flaws. But anyways, today we're doing some C# coding again. So let's get started here. I already have everything set up. So let me post the link for the actual learning page for anyone who wants to follow along. Because we're learning together here. Because I don't really know too much about C#. I know a little bit about coding in general, but not much about C# specifically. So it's just as new to me as it is for everyone else and everything. We went through the first challenge, or first part of it, last coding stream, which was on Saturday, and we basically wrote our first line of code, console.writeLine, hello world. That's like everyone's first line of code all the time in every programming language. Like saying hello world is usually the first line that people write. How the syntax they use is the part that's different. Wait, let me click on here, Control C, and boom. Okay, posted in the YouTube chat and in the Twitch chat now. So C# part 1. That's the learning path we're on, and we are currently in the complete the challenge section. That's where we had left off. We didn't do the challenge just yet. On my end, it shows that we did for some reason, even though I know 100% I didn't, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it right now. Yeah, for some reason it advanced me to the end of like this section of part 1. I don't know why, but it's whatever. So yeah, let's switch over here. There we go. Music's not too loud, is it? It's good. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Oh, nope. Nope. All right. Successfully move that. Oh, shoot. Pause for some reason. Okay, there we go. But oh yeah, before we get started, so what else we have planned for today is so we're just gonna spend the rest of the hour going through a bit of coding practice. Then the next hour at 9-ish, we're gonna do a little bit of art stream and everything, draw another Pokemon, or maybe a Pokemon character. Thinking about drawing either Dawn or Cynthia. If I can't think of another Pokemon to try and draw, just to get a practice at drawing people. I'm just going to draw their face though. I might draw both if I can do it quickly, because drawing people's faces is usually pretty easy. Especially when there's a reference image and I'm just trying to draw that reference image. Draw Officer Jet. Wait, hang on. It's been a minute since I've seen Officer Jenny. Let's be real. Like in the, like, I can't do that on Twitch for obvious reasons, but I'm not going to draw that in my spare time. Maybe. Now that thought's in my head. But now I want to draw that. Fuck. God damn you. Anyways. Yeah, and then after the art stream, we'll probably like I said, we'll probably do that for an hour, and then we'll either play more Monster Hunter Wilds or Marvel Rivals. For that one, like in that last hour there. So yeah, unless I get really consumed into drawing, then we might end up spending 2 hours doing that. But anyways, let's get started with the coding portion here. Hopefully everything on the screen is visible as possible here. Complete this challenge. Code challenges throughout these modules will reinforce what you learn and help you gain some confidence before continuing on. Challenge. Write code in .NET Editor, display 2 messages. Select all the code in the editor, press delete, backspace delete it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's nothing in our editor right now. So this is the first line, this is the second line. So what we're going to do here is we're going to write console dot write line, because we want it to append a new line after we write our next statement. And then we'll do parentheses, quotation marks, because if you want to do a literal string, you have to have quotation marks always, or else you're going to get an error or your message won't show up the way you want it to. So this is the first line, and then end it with a semicolon here. So then the compiler knows that this is the end of the first instruction. Then we're going to do console.write, because here, this is the end of the very end of our code here. And we don't want it to append the next line. We just want it to stop here. So we're going to put in this is the second line. And end it with a semicolon. And now we will go ahead and click run. All right, now it's printing. This is the first line and this second line, just as we wanted. There are other ways we could have done this. So one other thing that we could have done is this is a bit more advanced and everything, but this is just something I remember that we can do, because a lot of the syntax and other programming languages is pretty similar. We could have done backslash, I think it's backslash n. No, wait, no. Backslash n. Is it backslash n? N. I just want to test. Just going to put T right there. I'm not going to type the entire thing. Yep. That's exactly what we can do. Okay, so backslash n is basically a new line. That basically it appends a new line after the n there. So what you'll do, let me just make sure, because I don't want a space in front of the T. So yeah, that's right. You gotta have the T right next to, yeah, so right here, backslash n is to append a new line after this statement here, and then you will have your T right next to the n. You don't want to put a space because you don't want to start your next line, next output line, with a space. So then you'll type in this is the second line. And then run, and that should, yep, okay. So now you get the same result. This is the first line, this is the second line. That's one thing when it comes to coding that's really cool. There are multiple different ways to get to the answer that you wish to achieve. It all depends on how you prefer to write your code and how efficient your code needs to be in order to complete that task. Yeah, basically there are multiple ways to solve the same problem here. So, yep. And this is another way you could have done it. Console.writeLine, then console.write this is, console.write the second, console.writeLine. That's another way it could have been done. But we did it the simple way and then a bit more advanced way of doing it. So, yeah. Yeah, like I had said before, this code is just one possible solution among many possible ways to achieve the same result. However, you should have used both console.writeLine and console.write methods to produce the desired input, which is what we did. At least the first time, not the second time though. We just used console.write the second time. So, and then here's the knowledge check. What is the primary job of a compiler? The compiler primarily converts code into an executable format that the computer can understand. Which of the following statements is true about C#? You use double quotation marks to create a literal string. What is wrong with this line of code here? It does not have a semicolon at the end. I'm very used to seeing that sort of thing, so that's why I identified it pretty quickly. If you don't have a semicolon at the end of your code will not run in just about every programming language, with the exception of Python. Python is the only one that doesn't need a semicolon at the end of each line, because it was made to be as simple as possible. I'll go into Python a little bit more in another stream, but that's only after we complete a bit of C# and everything. So submit the answers, and all of them are correct. So yeah, just to review, primary job of a compiler is to convert your code into an executable format that the computer can understand, which following statements is true about C#. You use double quotation marks to create a literal string. What is wrong with this line of code? It is missing a semicolon at the end. Every line of code needs a semicolon at the end. Yeah. Now, there are exceptions to that rule where every line of code needs a semicolon. That's usually if the line of code is continuing on. Really, I should say that, yeah, semicolon must be used at the end of a statement, and a statement can be multiple lines of code. It can be a single line of code or multiple lines of code. That's how long a statement can be sometimes. Okay, and complete this. All right. Oh yeah, at the end you get a free certification. You can post that on your LinkedIn if you're looking into going the more coding route of like the job market and whatnot. This will also help with like modding, because I think Skyrim actually uses C# coding, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, let me see. Let me check into that real fast. I'm actually curious. Oh, what? Programming. Skyrim. They kind of use, okay, they use C++. C++ is actually very, very similar to C#. So if you know C#, you practically know C#. If you practice C#, you practically know C++, because they are very similar, like very, very similar. They're just some small syntax differences and everything. Then there's Papyrus, our object-oriented scripting language. I'm not going to talk about that because like its use, again, because it's a proprietary to Bethesda, it's very limited to like modding. C++ is like for development though. So if you want to build a game like Skyrim, follow along with me with C# and everything, and we'll also learn some C++ along the way, because again, they're very similar. And then we can also learn Papyrus at some point if we get into the modding scene of Skyrim. Yeah. So let's continue on with here. Completed this section, write your first C# code. Now we're going to store and retrieve data using literal and variable values in C#. Let's get started. So, many of the applications that you'll build in C# will require you to work with data. Sometimes that data will be hard-coded in your application. Hard-coded values are values that are constant and unchanged throughout the execution of the program. For example, you may need to print a message to the user when some operation succeeds. A success message would likely be the very same time the application is executed. So like think of whenever you have to reset your password and then you get a message that says password was reset successfully. That's what it's talking about there. That's like a hard-coded message. If like, you know, you successfully reset your password, or whenever your password does not meet the requirements needed, that's also hard-coded. That's just an example there. This hard-coded value can also be called a constant or a literal value. Suppose you want to display a formatted message to the end user containing different types of data. The message would include hard-coded strings combined with information your app collects from the user. To display a formatted message, you'll need to create both hard-coded values and define variables that store data of a certain type. whether numeric, alphanumeric, and so on. In this module, you'll create literal values that contain different types of data. You'll create variables that can hold certain data types, set those variables with a value, then retrieve those values later in code. And finally, you'll learn how you can simplify your code by allowing the compiler to shoulder some of the work. At the end of the module, you'll be creating little values and store and retrieve data and variables. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Yeah, we just read everything. I'm not going to read all that shit again. Learning objectives, prerequisites. So I set the stream to educational. I remembered that. I also said it like, hey, this is not, it's like more of an 18+ stream, but if any kids see this, I'm so sorry for my cursing, but like, you're going to have to deal with it. You came to my video. I'm not going to babysit you. Probably in high school or middle school, and you've probably heard worse, honestly. Hopefully from other kids at school and not your parents or something. Anyways. In this exercise, you'll print messages containing other types of data and learn why types of data are so important in C#. What is literal value? Literal value is a constant value that never changes. Previously, you displayed a literal string to the output console. In other words, you literally wanted the string of alphanumeric characters, hello, and so on, to be displayed in the output console. Use a string data type whenever you have alphanumeric words, phrases, or data for presentation, not calculation. What kinds of other literal data can you print and to output? Blah, blah, blah. There are many data types in C#, but as you're getting started, you only need to know about 5 or 6 data types since they cover most scenarios. Let's display a literal instance of a data type to output. Use character literals. If you wanted a single alphanumeric character printed to screen, you could create a char literal. Character literal, basically. Well, whenever you see this, you should say character, or else other programmers will make fun of you for saying char. So, character literal by surrounding one of the alphanumeric characters in single quotes. The term character, well, term char is short for character. Again, yeah, say character, don't say char. You'll be made fun of. In C#, this data type is officially named char, but is frequently referred to as character, like I just said. Add the following line of code to the editor. So right now it's asking us to write in console dot write line parentheses, then single quote, and then the letter B and semicolon. So now if we run the code, it will print out only the letter B. Now, for example, if we were to do something like, well, let's go with the example below and everything so I don't have to reread stuff. If you enter the following code, so we'll do hello world like it describes, or how it asks. As you can see, the text isn't highlighted in orange now. Hello world, like take note of that. And if we were to hit run, we'll get an error. Too many characters in character literal, because character literals are made, single quotations are made for just a single character only. So now see how that turned orange now that we've deleted everything and only left in an H. And if we were to run that, just an H now. Let's read here. Notice single quotation marks surrounding hello world. When you use single quotation marks, the compiler expects a single character. However, in this case, the literal syntax was used, but 12 characters were supplied instead. Just like string data type, you use char. Damn it. I did it. Make fun of me. You use character whenever you have a single alphanumeric character for presentation, not calculation. Use integer literals. If you want to display a numeric whole number, no fractions, value in the output console, you can use an int literal. Int means integer. Again, people will make fun of you if you say, well, actually, no, this one people won't make fun of you because, like, this one, a lot of people say int a lot more than they say integer. I'm not entirely certain as to why, but like in my experience, they usually just say int when they're like pointing to the code, but then they'll say integer when they're talking about the code. So it kind of depends on the context of the conversation. So anyways, the term int is short for integer, which you may recognize from studying math. In C#, this data is officially named int, but frequently referred to as integer. An integer literal requires no other operators like the string or character. So we're going to add the following code here. So we're going to do console. So let me just go ahead and comment that out. Remember, comments are two forward slashes, and turns the text green and makes it so the compiler does not read that line of code because it's meant to be irrelevant, but we didn't want to delete that line of code just yet. So now we can type in console dot write line 1, 2, 3. See how the numbers are highlighted in green? It recognizes those characters as numbers. If we were just to type in like for letters, it's still going to remain white. Everything, nothing's really going to change because characters or letters aren't recognized as any sort of literal value on its own without quotation marks of some kind. So yeah, 1, 2, 3. Then we'll end that with a semicolon. And then we'll go ahead and click on run. So now it put out output 1, 2, 3 down here at the bottom. So that is integer literals right there. And we'll go ahead and comment out this. And actually, now that I think about it, let's do air literal, just so then it can be referenced. You can screenshot this if you'd like. And then integer. Oh, this is what makes comments very useful. I'll just put int actually. So now you can do console. Well, actually, let me go through the floating point. Let me actually read this first. So use floating point literals. A floating point number is a number that contains a decimal, for example, 3.14159, which that's pi if you didn't recognize that. We had Pi Day last week, a couple weeks ago at work. So basically you like on Pi Day, it's a nerd day. And usually if you're in an IT organization, they'll give you free pizza or like free like actual pie. Everything. It's like just an excuse to spend some money on some food, honestly. Always look for an excuse to spend money on food, always. Anyways, C# supports 3 data types to represent decimal numbers: float, double, and decimal. Each type supports varying degrees of precision. Here, precision reflects the number of digits past the decimal that are accurate. So add the following line of code to the editor. So this is for float literals. So we're going to do console.write line 0.25f. And then semicolon. F is needed at the very end. So then you can actually print out this floating literal and everything, because without that you wouldn't be able to really do anything. So well, that's not exactly correct. So Actually, I don't quite remember how to explain floats properly, so I'll let the actual assignment here explain it. So we're just going to put F here. So yeah, and then let's continue reading here. To create a float literal, append the letter F after the number. In this context, letter F is called a literal suffix. The literal suffix tells the compiler you wish to work with a value type of float. You can either use lowercase f or an uppercase f as the literal suffix for a float. Notice float data type is the least precise, so use this data type for fixed fractional values to avoid unexpected computation errors. Now, if we were to type in, let's go ahead and backslash this, float literal, okay, console dot write line two dot 625 parentheses semicolon. Okay, so right here, if we run this code here, okay, so to create a double literal, just enter a decimal number. The compiler defaults to a double literal when a decimal number is entered without a literal suffix. So actually, speaking of which, if we were to put F back here, then click run, it prints out the same. Interesting. I think in other programming languages, it does act differently. I'm not going to go into that just so then just not have any confusion here. That and my own understanding is a tad bit foggy, so I'm not going to discuss that too much more, but by default, C# puts decimals in the double literal format. All right, so now double literal. So now we're going to continue on here to this portion here. Console dot write line parentheses 12.39816M, and then semicolon. To create a decimal literal, append the letter M after the number. In this context, letter M is called a literal suffix. Literal suffix tells the compiler you wish to work with a value of a decimal type. You can use either a lowercase m or an uppercase m for a decimal. So if we go ahead and run this, then it will print out the output that we have there. Actually, I want to check if something can. It would. Okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I guess in C in this instance, it's really just the precision that changes things. If you want to be as precise as possible and everything, you would use a decimal. But if you wanted to use something least precise and everything, then you would use a float. And it looks like the max number of, actually, let me test this real fast. So if we were to put in F at the very end, it says 6 to 9 digits. So let's put in, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's put 6, 7, 10, 11. Let's put a few more digits back there and then see what happens. Okay, so because we have more than 9 digits, it rounded down to about 6 digits here. So yeah, that's right. When it comes to floats and doubles, they will round whatever number you have as your decimal to a certain degree. So this one floats will round between 6 to 9 decimal places. Doubles will round to 15 to 20 to 17 decimal places, and decimal will round to about 28 to 29 decimal places. So yeah, I was wondering why it was why there was difference, because like in other programming languages, doubles I believe round down to like 2 decimal places in some programming languages, and that's what was tripping me up there. So yeah, just wanted to go over that little bit there. I should go over shortcut commands and everything at some point, but I'll do that later. Not everyone knows shortcut commands all the time. Okay, so now moving on to, okay, let me actually type this in, decimal, literal. Okay, so now we're going on to Boolean literals. This is one of those true or false things, and actually comes in handy when making small-time games that are decision-based. So, if you wanted to print a value representing either true or false, you could use a bool literal. The term bool is short for Boolean. Most people just say Boolean because bool sounds weird. In C#, they are officially referred to as bool, but often developers use them as Boolean because it sounds weird to say bool. No one's saying bool, in like a normal conversation at least. So add the following lines of code: console.writeLine true. See how the text changed and everything? That's true is a actual value and everything, a literal value, as well as false. Those are actually also literal values. So if you were to type in true without quotation marks, then it'll turn blue and it can be used for Boolean, but not same for when it has quotation marks and everything. So can have output printed with a literal string as a result of a Boolean, but like that's a whole different thing that we'll get into later. So we got console.writeLine true, and then we have console.writeLine false. So now when you run the code, it will say true and false. Notice how it did capitalize true and false. That's because it's a preset. Basically in C#, that's the best way to explain it. So it'll print out the word true if you have the value true here. So the Boolean literals represent the idea of truth and falsehood. You'll use Boolean values extensively when you start to add decision logic into your applications. You'll evaluate expressions to see whether the expression is true or false. So basically, I love Booleans, mainly because it's kind of gets you thinking about how decisions are made in games and everything, or how the game actually knows that you made a particular choice. So basically what a video game will tend to do is use this sort of Boolean value or some other form of true or falsehood sort of thing, because there are another things called switch statements, but that's a whole nother thing and we'll get to that later. But say you have choice A and choice B in your video game. You chose choice A maybe like 5 hours ago. That data is then saved And then there is another line of code somewhere along the line, once you get to like that 6-hour mark into the game, checking on whether or not you chose choice A or B. To keep it simple here, say choosing choice A is true, choosing choice B is false, and everything. So it will check for that. So, oh, you chose choice A, that means it's true. That means it will send a true value to the system, and then a certain type of cutscene might appear. Say you chose choice B. If you chose choice B, then that would be false in this instance, and it will choose a different cutscene to show you. So it's one. This is one of those cool things about programming. When you learn this thing specifically, at least this is how it was for me. I started breaking down how games are built up, at least like in the back end, not in an exact way, but like a theoretical sort of way, you know? That's just how my brain works. Sometimes I start breaking things down once I learn something new behind, like, you know, how things are built. It's really cool. I really am an old man. Anyways, why emphasize data types? Data types play a central role in C#. In fact, the emphasis on data types is one of the key distinguishing features of C# compared to other languages like JavaScript. The designers of C# believe they can help developers avoid common software bugs by enforcing data types. You'll see this concept unfold as you learn more about C#. Data types define capabilities. Earlier you saw strings and characters are used for presentation, not calculation. If you need to perform a mathematical operation on numeric values, you should use an int or a decimal. If you have data that is used for presentation or text manipulation, you should use a string or character data type. Suppose you need to collect data from user, like a phone number or a postal code. Depending on the country, region where you live, that data may consist of numeric characters. However, since you rarely perform mathematical calculations on phone numbers and postal codes, you should prefer to use a string data type when working with them. Same can be said of Boolean. If you need to work with words true and false in your application, you would use a string. However, if you need to work with the concept of true or false when performing an evaluation, you use a Boolean. It's important to know these values may look like their string literal equivalents. In other words, you may think these statements are the same. Console.WriteLine 1 2 in quotation marks 1 2 3 and console.WriteLine without quotation marks 1 2 3, or console.WriteLine true within quotation marks, or console.WriteLine true without quotation marks. However, is only displayed the output that appears to be similar. It is only the displayed output that appears to be similar. The fact is that the kinds of things you can do with the underlying integer or Boolean will be different than their string equivalent. So like if you want to add numbers together, you can't do that with a literal string, but you can do that with a integer value. Or if you wanted your code to check if a statement was true or false, you couldn't do that with a true within its quotation marks. You have to use the actual true value without quotation marks. So the main takeaway here is that there are many different data types, but you'll focus on just a few for now. String for words, phrases, or any alphanumeric data for presentation, not calculation. Character for a single alphanumeric character. Integer for a whole number. Decimal for a number with a fractional component. Boolean for a true or false value. So here we are declaring values. So a literal value is a hard-coded value. Hard-coded values are values that are constant and unchanged throughout the execution of the program. However, most applications will require you to work with values that you don't know much about ahead of time. In other words, you'll need to work with data that comes from users, from files, or from across the network. When you need to work with data that isn't hard-coded, you'll declare a variable. What is a variable? A variable is a container for storing a type of value. Variables are important because their values can change or vary throughout the execution of the program. Variables can be assigned, read, and changed. Yeah, variables can... I don't know why I read it like that. Fuck. Anyways, you use variables to store values that you intend to use in your code. A variable name is a human-friendly label that the computer assigns to a memory address. When you want to store or change a value in that memory address, or whenever you want to retrieve the stored value, you just use the name you create, the variable name you created. Now, this is just a little bit of a side tangent. When it said memory address, yes, it is referring to your RAM, and it's referring to blocks of data that your RAM uses to exchange information. And then this can also be in terms of your storage. It's a whole different thing. But in case you were wondering about that, memory address does slightly relate to computations with your CPU and your RAM and everything like that. So, but that's a whole nother can of worms and everything. Hell, I don't even know. Probably shouldn't have mentioned it. If you want to look into that, go and search it up. Not going to do that right now. So, declare a variable. Gonna go ahead and delete all of this. Actually, hang on. This is actually a good opportunity to say this here. So if you wanted to select all of this text without using your mouse to highlight everything, what you can do instead is do Control A, and that will highlight everything on the page that you're currently on. So if I were to do Control A here, then it will highlight literally everything on the page. But if I were to do Control A here, it only highlights what's in the text editor. So you can do that, and then you can do Control X to delete everything here. If you want to recover some data that you might have accidentally backspaced, you can do Control Z. Or if you want to remove that data again, but not write anything new, and make sure that, like, you know, you can always go back to it, you can do Control Shift Z. That comes in handy every now and again. Or if, say, we do Control Z and then did Control C. Control C is for copying. So if we were to backspace this data and remove it, we can do Control V to bring back what we pasted. Well, I shouldn't say that. Not bring back, but to paste something new. So we could possibly say we did KaptainNexus say we did KaptainNexus. We'll highlight this here, do Control C to copy it, Control X to remove it, and now if we want KaptainNexus to be the only thing on screen, we will do Control A to highlight all our text here, Control X to remove the text, and then Control V. Nope, that was actually out of order. That is my bad. So actually, Control X also does works the same way as copying, but it removes your data while also copying it to your clipboard. I forgot about that. So I don't use Control X that often because it's more of an inconvenience for me for what I want to do. So let's try this again. So we're gonna do Control C here, Control C KaptainNexus, backspace that out, Control A to highlight all our text, and then we hit backspace instead. Then we'll do Control V, so then it only has KaptainNexus in the text editor. So that's just a small rundown of a few shortcuts that tend to come in handy. Yeah. So, going back to declaring a variable, to declare a variable, you must declare the data type of the variable and then give it a name. So, in this instance, we will be having the variable string first name, and then semicolon. In this case, you're creating a new variable type string called first name. From now on, this variable can only hold string values. You can choose any name as long as it adheres to a few C# syntax rules for naming variables. So this part is important for like the specific syntax of C#. Python works a little bit differently when it comes to syntax. Java works differently, so it depends on what programming language you're currently learning. I'm not going to go over those right now. We're just going to focus on C. A software developer once famously said, "The hardest part of software development is naming things. Not only does the name of a variable have to follow certain syntax rules, it should also be used to make the code more human readable and understandable. That's a lot to ask of one line of code. Here's a few important considerations about variable names. Variable names can contain alphanumeric characters and the underscore character. Special characters like the hash symbol, also known as the number symbol or pound symbol, a dollar symbol, are not allowed. Variable names must begin with an alphanumeric character or an underscore, not a number. So you can't start your variable names with a number. You can't do that. You can't do like 6 KaptainNexus. You'd have to do something like KaptainNexus 6 or something like that. So if your variable was KaptainNexus, that is. It can be anything you want, literally anything. Just can't start with a number or have a $sign or a hashtag symbol. Variable names are case sensitive, meaning that string value and string value are two different variables. So yeah, watch out for that. If you name a variable, have like a capital letter at the very beginning, make sure whenever you call to that variable, it still has that capital letter at the beginning, because otherwise your compiler will not recognize that as an existing variable. It'll be like, what the fuck is this? So yeah. Variable names must not be a C# keyword. For example, you cannot use the following variable declarations like decimal, decimal, or like decimal, or string. So basically what they mean is you can't do string and then have the variable name also be string. You can't do that. You could do potentially string with a capital S, but I wouldn't recommend doing that as that would be very confusing. Now, there are coding conventions that keep variables readable and easy to identify. As you develop larger applications, these coding conventions can help you keep track of variables among other text. Here are some coding conventions for variables. Variable names should use camel case, which is a style of writing that uses lowercase letter at the beginning of the first word and an uppercase letter at the beginning of each subsequent word. This is part of the reason why I have trouble typing sometimes, or why sometimes when I type something, it looks weird. So if you ever notice me type something in my YouTube description and it starts with a lowercase letter instead of an uppercase letter when it's supposed to, this is why, because I do a lot of camel case when it comes to naming files or writing code. I use it all the time. For example, string. This is camel case. So basically, string. This is how this could actually be done. String first name. The idea is that you would basically make each word after the first word in your variable name, you would capitalize that letter and everything. So another example would be string home, sweet home. So the first home starts out with a lowercase, and then sweet has an uppercase S, and then the second home has an uppercase H. So that's just another example there. Control A and backspace all that out. So, variable name should begin with an alphabetical letter. Developers use the underscore for a special purpose, so try not to use that for now. Variable names should be descriptive and meaningful in your app. Choose a name for your variable that represents the kind of data it will hold. So basically, take a video game, for example. If your variable was named, like say, sword and everything, so string sword, you would want to make it that specific, or actually better yet, sword of power. So say this was like a legendary sword that a specific character used, you'd want to make sure that, hey, this is the description of the sword. And because say if you had another sword called string basic, or sword of loser, you'd want them to be different and easily identifiable there. So basically that's what that's saying there. Couldn't come up with anything else other than sword of power and sword of loser. I'm sorry, not very creative right now. Variable name should be one or more entire words appended together. Don't use contractions or abbreviations, because the name of the variable and therefore its purpose may be unclear to others who are reading your code. Variable names should include data types of the variable. You might see some advice to use a style like string, str, string value. That advice is no longer current. This is actually what they did used to teach in school, but now you shouldn't be doing this, because it gets confusing and kind of weird and kind of messes up in some areas of code, especially if your code has to communicate with an entirely different version of code. Anyways, the example string first name follows all these rules and name conventions, assuming you want to use this variable to store data that represents someone's first name. Variable name examples. Here are a few examples of declarations using the data types you learned about thus far. Character, user option, int, game score, decimal, particles per million, Boolean, processed customer. So to recap, variables are temporary values you store in a computer's memory. Before you can use a variable, you have to declare it. To declare a variable, you must select a data type for the kind of data you want to store, and then give the variable a name that follows the rules. Now we can move on to the exercise portion. And I think this is the last thing that we'll go over for right now, since I do want to get to a bit of drawing today. So, exercise setting and getting values from variables. Because variables are temporary storage containers for data, they are meant to be written and read from. You'll get the chance to do this both in the following exercise. Okay, so we're going to create our first variable here. String first name, and then first name equals Bob. Bob in quotation marks. Or actually, let's do KaptainNexus, since that's me. To declare a variable, you need to enter the data type you want to use, followed by the name of the variable. To assign a value to that variable, you use an assignment operator, which is a single equals character. In some other programming languages, well, actually, no, I'm not going to talk about that, because actually what I was about to say was completely and totally wrong. So ignore that. Anyways. So, improperly assign a value to a variable. It's important to notice that assignment happens from right to left. In other words, not manga. We're not reading left to right here, we're reading right to left. We're doing it the American way. It's important to notice that assignment happens from right to left. In other words, the C compiler must first understand the value on the right side of the assignment operator, then it can perform the assignment to the variable on the left side of the assignment operator. If you reverse the order, you'll confuse the C compiler. So basically, you will get this error down here if it was out of order. You can't do Bob equals first name, you have to do first name equals Bob. Similar to basically how you do normal math and everything. So 2 + 2 would equal 4. We're not doing the whole 4 = 2 + 2 or anything like that and stuff, trying to figure out like shit like that. We're not doing that here. So 2 + 2 = 4. First name equals Bob. YouTuber equals KaptainNexus, because say your string was a YouTuber. Or actually, let's do this because this will be fun for me. VTuber, that's the variable name. Then VTuber KaptainNexus. So, error hints at what the C# compiler tries to do behind the scenes. It tried to implicitly convert the string Bob to be an int value. However, that is impossible. Even so, the C# tried to do the conversion, but it fails since there's no numeric equivalent for the word Bob. Oh wait, no. We're looking at something else here. Okay, assigned to create incorrect data type. I went too far. So yeah, this is what happens when you put an int first name, and then you can have your int variable be called first name. Not sure why you would really do that, but first name has to equal a numeric value. It can't use an alphanumeric value because Bob isn't a number. It's as simple as that. Bob isn't a number, so it can't do that. You'll learn more. Okay, so you'll learn more about implicit and explicit type conversion later. For now, just remember that a variable can only hold values matching its specified type. So integers can only be numbers, strings can only be words, characters can only be single characters. All right, cool. Oh, and Boolean can only be Boolean values. So like true or false, really. Yeah. Retrieve the value you stored in the variable. So what we're going to do is add a line here. So console dot write line parentheses, and here we don't need to use a quotation mark because we made a variable. So what we're going to just type in is the variable instead. Vtuber, then semicolon. So now when we run the code, it prints out KaptainNexus because that is what is stored in the variable we named Vtuber. Vtuber has been assigned the Vtuber variable has been assigned the value KaptainNexus. Therefore, if you were to print, if you wanted to print the variable Vtuber, it will output KaptainNexus. Now, retrieving value from a variable is also referred to as getting the variable, or simply a get operation. As you write lines of code, you'll see the compiler is checking your code and spotting for possible mistakes. The compiler is a great tool to help you get code correct sooner. Now that you're familiar with different types of errors, you can quickly fix mistakes with the help of the compiler's error messages. Reassign the value of a variable. You can reuse and assign the variable as many times as you want. This example illustrates that idea. Modify the code you wrote to match the following code. So basically we're doing this here. I'm gonna do it my own way, just because. So the logic here is you set a string variable called first name, then you want to print out console.writeLine first name, so then it prints out that we're going to do it slightly different here just because I want it to be personal, and that way I remember it a little bit better. You can do it your own way, so then you can remember a little bit better. So now we already declared the variable VTuber, so now we can reuse it without having to type in string again. So we'll type in VTuber, and then type in equal, and then let's type in a name of VTuber like Shy Lily. Very enjoyable VTuber, and then semicolon. So now when we do, we'll just make this short here. We'll copy console.writeLine VTuber, do Control V, and now whenever we run that, it will say Shy Lily on the next line. Say KaptainNexus for the first line here because VTuber still equals KaptainNexus at this point in time. But now that we've typed in VTuber equals Shy Lily, it is now holds the value Shy Lily instead of KaptainNexus. So we'll go ahead and continue on here. Just like how it has in the exercise. So VTuber equals quotation mark, and then we'll type in Gargura, semicolon, then Control V, and then we'll type in VTuber equals let's see, Mint Phantom A. And now we can do Control V. So now when we output, it will list all of these VTuber names, and each time it's replacing the value for the original value for VTuber. So the original value for VTuber here was basically nothing because we just declared it. We assigned the value KaptainNexus here, and then on the next line here for VTuber, we reassigned the value to Shy Lily. Then once again, we reassigned the value to Gargura. Then once again, we reassigned the value to Mint Phantom A. Now, until we reassign the value again, it will remain to be Mint Phantom A. So run that. See, KaptainNexus, Shy Lily, Gargura, Mint Phantom A. So now we can go to initialize a variable. You must set the variable value before you can get the value from the variable. Otherwise, you'll see an error like below. So if you were to not assign anything to VTuber, let's go ahead and comment this out. I'm going to do a special type of comment here. Star. Then star slash. So basically what I just did is a special type of comment where you can comment multiple lines of code instead of just one. 2 forward slashes, just comment one line of code. /star can comment out multiple lines of code as long as you put // at the end of the statement that you want to comment out. So that's just one thing there. So, but if we wanted to, and this is so we can continue on and write some more code. If we didn't put the / at the very end, everything else that we write afterwards will still be a comment. So we definitely need that / at the very end here. So and usually the // and then the /* is relevant in just about every programming language with the exception of a few. I can't really remember what those few are right now at this time though. I think it's CSS code where you have to use something different in order to comment out code. That or it's JavaScript. I can't quite remember. But here we're going to do console.writeLine, and then we're going to type in Vtuber like it says in here. And because that hasn't been declared, it will give you a little squiggly line in some text editors letting you know it's like, hey, there's something wrong here. But say it doesn't give you that sort of thing. If you try to run it, it'll give you the error as shown below. Error use of unassigned local variable VTuber. Because a variable VTuber hasn't been assigned to anything, it will spit out error and will not print out anything useful, at least for us. So here, the recap, you must assign a set value to a variable before you can retrieve a value from the variable. You can initialize variable by assigning the value to the variable at the point of declaration. Assigning happens from right to left. You can use single equals character as the assignment operator. To retrieve the value from variable, you merely use the variable's name. So that was the end of that section there. Actually, this part's pretty short. It's 6 minutes. So, declare implicitly typed local variables. C# compiler works behind the scenes to assist you as you write your code. You can infer your variable data type by its initialized value. In this unit, you'll learn about this feature called implicitly typed local variables. An implicitly typed local variable is created by using the var keyword followed by variable initialization. For example, var message hello world. This example, a string variable was created using the var keyword instead of string keyword. Var keyword tells the C# compiler that the data type is implied by the assigned value. After the type is implied, the variable acts the same as if the data type had been used to declare it. Var keyword is used to save on keystrokes when types are lengthy or when the type is obvious from the context. In the example, var message hello world. So actually, let's type this. Var message equals. Yeah, you can declare and assign a variable all within one line. By the way, this is what we're doing here. This isn't just exclusive to var. You can do this with strings, decimals, strings, integers, characters, etc., etc. So var message on ba wa good evening. Evening chat. Then semicolon at the end. So now if I were to print out the message console.writeLine. Made a mistake here. Have a capitalized O when there shouldn't be one. So now I can put in message semicolon. Now when I run my code, it'll say konbanwa or good evening chat. I spelled evening wrong. Fuck. Or evening. I think I spelled that right. Probably not. Programming is also why I can't spell. Anyways. Because the variable message is immediately set to the string value hello world, the C# compiler understands the intent and treats every instance of the message as an instance of a string. In fact, the variable is typed as string can never be changed. For example, consider the following code. If we were to put var message hello world, then type in message and give it a decimal, it would spit out an error because you can't convert a decimal to a string. In other programming languages, like Python, it gets around this. You can actually change variable all willy-nilly, honestly. But I usually refrain from doing that myself because it gets confusing after a while. Anyways, other programming languages use var keyword differently. In C#, variables are assigned type by the compiler, regardless of whether you use the actual data type name or allow the compiler to imply the data type. In other words, the type is locked in at the time of declaration. Therefore, we will never be able to hold values of a different data type. So, variables using the var keyword must be initialized. It's important to understand the var keyword is dependent on the value used to initialize the variable. Try to use the var keyword without initializing the variable, you'll receive an error when you attempt to compile your code. So var message, if you don't initialize it, like say we take this out and everything, then comment that out, then it will just not work. But if we were to say message here, I believe it should work now. No. Okay, no, you have to do it in the same line. I was incorrect about that. So yeah, for the var keyword, you have to initialize it all on the same line. You can't do it on separate lines, it looks like. So that was a misunderstanding by my part. Glad I just didn't blanket say that and actually checked. So var keyword is useful for planning the code for an application. When you begin developing code for a task, you may not immediately know what data type to use. Using var can help you develop your solution more dynamically. As you get started, it's recommended to continue to use the actual data type name when you declare variables until you become more comfortable working with code. Using data type when you declare variables will help you be purposeful as you write your code. So to recap, keyword tells the compiler to infer a data type based on the value initialized to. You'll likely see the var keyword as you read other people's code. However, you should use the data type when possible. So here it has a challenge, and we'll do the challenge, save the challenge for next time. So then you can attempt to do the challenge on your own, and then we can talk about it together in the next stream. So yeah, that is it for our coding lesson for today. Hopefully this was very insightful. Hopefully I didn't go too fast for anyone, but if I did, this is recorded as a YouTube video, and you can slow down at any given point or rewind or do what you need to in order to get a good understanding of what we've gone over today. Thank you very much. All right, and we will go into the just chatting portion of the stream. Yeah, I've talked a lot. This will help in practicing voice acting a little bit, so at least get me used to talking for long periods of time, because I talked for an hour straight, non-stop, not even any pauses or anything. Goodness gracious. Yeah. And now it's 9:25. We started at 8, right? Yeah, we started at 8, so yeah. Now I'm debating on whether or not to draw or to go ahead and play a video game of some sort. Part of me wants to go ahead and play a video game. I also want to draw. Decisions. Well, Gozo, are you still there, or did I put you to sleep with the lesson today? Silence. Nice. I put him to sleep. Crazy work. Oh no, my mod's gone. Now people can harass me without being filtered. This man playing Marvel Rivals or something. Oh, he's playing Assassin's Creed. Wait, you playing Assassin's Creed? Which Assassin's Creed you playing? Swear to God, if it's Shadows, I have to ban you. The first one? Alright, good. Better not be playing Shadows. No, I'm just kidding. Shadows is actually it's decent, but it has its like they didn't call it historically accurate when they tried to introduce this game. It would not receive as much backlash as it gets right now, because ultimately it looks pretty good, but I'm gonna play through most of it, if not all. Gotcha. Some just for nostalgia. Gotcha, nice. Gonna send that message. I'm gonna see the results of that later. I forgot there was a messaging system in Steam, so I messaged somebody. I messaged someone that's lame and gay. That's what I sent them. So I'm gonna see the results of that later. Watch them get mad because I'm an asshole. But what to do? I am actually going to be right back because I'm going to get a drink of water. So BRB. Okay, I've returned and I've decided I'm going to play Marvel Rivals because one, I don't want to play Monster Hunter Wilds 3 days in a row, and like somehow get tired of it because I'm going to be playing Marvel Rivals tomorrow. Um, and I think it was going to be a good time to maybe practice a new character in Marvel Rivals stuff for like an hour or two and a few quick matches. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Just like try to grind on like one character constantly, no matter how much I hate it. Yeah. So and I hate learning new characters. I'm going to go ahead and start editing a few of the stream stuff here. Okay, and change that. Okay. Okay, gonna end the stream on both YouTube and Twitch. Go ahead and refresh. Once you get the yeah, go ahead and refresh in about 2 minutes. All right, I'll be right back.